Hey guys, Palsteron here, and today let's talk about metamorph organs or itemized samples, or however they're called. If you haven't checked out my metamorph farming strat, I'll link it down in the description. But this video is about Tane's laboratory and whether it's actually worth doing and worth engaging with it. Metamorph drops a ton of itemized samples, and while I haven't really included them in any sort of currency valuation for metamorph strats because you don't really know what you're getting, right? A lot of people are hiding them, and I wanted to know more. I wanted to make this video and actually look at whether they're worth it, because there's also some new Atlas passive nodes that kind of made them stronger than before. I also want to go over a little bit of how Tane's laboratory actually works, how you can easily get the most out of your organs, the vendor recipe, stuff like that, how to organize them. But if you don't care about that at all, you can also skip to the end on the timestamps. So why even try? Now, the thing with the organs is last league, I tried it out. It was like 4 divines per hour. It was pretty bad. Last league, I would say 7 or 6 divines per hour was kind of like the golden standard for most strats. So 4 was just kind of bad. It's also kind of annoying to do. So I was like, well, organ donor changed, so let's try it out again. So what happened is the second line here changed. Itemized samples found in your maps have an additional reward. So if we look at anything here, like this heart right here, instead of 1 reward, it now has 2. Or something that has more, instead of 2 rewards, it has 3, and so on and so on. So in general, I would say the average reward amount was right about 2. So if that goes from 2 to 3 on average, that is round about a 50% more loot increase. Now, before anything, let's talk about how Tane's laboratory actually works. You go here on the minimap. This is Mr. Tane. You can go down here and you can construct a metamorph. For that, you need 1 liver, 1 lung, 1 heart, 1 brain, and 1 eye. Then you can spawn it, and then it will randomly drop loot at the end. It has certain rewards on the organs, and depending on that, you're going to get a loot explosion. So for example, here I had a Harvey reward, the Ancient Orb. I had some currency rewards, I had oil rewards, and I had some essence rewards. Overall, you also get a lot of these temple mod items, so if you're good at pricing them, that can also change quite a bit. Now, we did a total of, I think, round about 500 of these over on twitch.tv/Palsteron. And it was kind of interesting. The sorting wasn't the worst, but I would personally say that if it wasn't for the sorting, this would be completely insane. Now, the main problem with this currently is that you cannot really do much with the Catalyst tab. So as you can see right here, if we look at the Catalyst tab, there's only 50 that fit in here. And obviously, I was completely going crazy, right? Like having quad tabs full of them. I think I had like 7 quad tabs full of them. That's obviously ridiculous. But I mean, 50 is a third of a normal tab. I mean, you can fill these up pretty damn quickly because you get up to 6 per map, and then you can also hit the rogue metamorph, so up to 9 per map. So yeah, organizing them was quite the nightmare, and it took us in total almost 2 hours. We're now at the 2-hour, 10-minute mark somewhere where we start actually playing the game and actually doing the metamorphs. And one thing I want to quickly talk about is the vendor recipe, though, because there is a big problem with brains. So brains drop a lot more often than the other counterparts. Second is hearts, which drop quite a bit as well. Then there's lungs and livers, which drop quite a bit. And then there's eyes that are quite uncommon. In order to even out the playing field, what you can do is you can actually vendor them in a recipe. You don't have to do it at Tane, obviously, just a vendor recipe. So you can basically vendor 3 organs for a random new one. However, an interesting trick to know is that whatever organ comes out here cannot be any of the ones you put in. So for example, what you can do is you always want to have a brain here. Also, for example, a lung and a heart. So now we put those 3 in, and they can be neither of those. So there will only be the option of being an eye or a liver. So yeah, this is how you can make eyes pretty damn reliably. It's obviously still a 50-50, but livers can be also hard to come by. Now, the main problem, and you can already see what the problem here is that the vendored ones do not have the extra reward from organ donor. And this is something that I didn't really think about when I thought about how good this node would actually be, because you do have to vendor quite a few brains to get some of the other parts. So round about, I don't know, a third of your eyes will just look like this. Now, when farming for metamorphs, one thing you have to understand is that every metamorph can drop these itemized samples, but only if at least one of the parts in there is actually a unique part, which means that you want a map that has at least 2 bosses, because you can make up to 2 metamorphs down here with replicated results. Normally, you only get 1 sample, but with the scarab, with the Gilded Metamorph scarab, and then on top of that, with the organ donor, you get up to 3. So you make your first metamorph, you get 3 organs, and then if there's another unique part for the second metamorph, now you get another 3 for a total of 6. However, something I wasn't thinking about when I was doing coves, I really like coves. It's an awesome layout. It's a lot easier to sustain than City Square because there's Atoll right next to it, which means you can kind of ping pong between 2 awesome maps. What City Square has is it has 3 bosses, and there is a distinct upside to 3 bosses for Metamorph strat. Because the way it works is that the itemized samples that you drop can only be whatever you put in. So for example, in the video here, I put in Talvar, the Inebriated's eye. That means that there's going to be 3 itemized samples dropping that are all eyes. Now, if I made a metamorph out of both an eye and a brain, that means on every single roll, I have a 50-50 between an eye and a brain. And the nice thing about having 3 bosses is if you have 2 bosses, you have to pick whatever you get. If you have 3 bosses, you can leave one of them out, which means you have incredible flexibility with choosing the organs. Now, this is obviously only if you want to go for organs. Like I said in the last video, Metamorph is completely fine without it. You don't need any organs. You can actually hide them if you don't want to engage with them at all. This is just for people who want to min-max that aspect. But let's now actually talk about whether it was worth it. So in total, we spent 2 hours just sorting out all the Metamorph samples. And this was not that annoying. It was kind of easy. It was just a lot of busy work, which is, yeah, for people who don't have that much time to play every day, I really wouldn't recommend this. But yeah, all for science. And then doing the metamorphs themselves actually took 4 hours. Now, if you're confused on why this actually took so long, I will quickly show you right here. It's mostly because of unnecessary waiting times. My build is actually pretty damn good at killing them, but it doesn't really matter when, after you kill them, this happens. It's really bad. So what came out here in the end is total returns 30 divines, and we got 5 divines per hour basically. And that is without having to pick all the organs up in maps. Now, I did this quick on here. Now, this is TFT bulk selling tool, so it would be around about 30 divines. One thing I did not count into this was certain bases, certain rares would probably sell. So maybe it would go to like 32, maybe like 33. Just for some info on what we dropped exactly. We got 2 Astral Projectors right here, which I think currently sell for like 200 chaos, a little bit under a divine. We got 1 Warrior's Legacy, and I think also 1 Fury Valve right here, yeah. Let me quickly put this together. Exalt and Nulls. We also got an interesting talisman. You get quite a ton of talismans. So many, in fact, that at some point you are going to drop something that's at least okay. We got quite a few of Resonators. You're going to get okay Helmet Chance eventually. The only good unique I got was actually a Taste of Hate. In total, we did get 12 divines though, which I was very surprised by. And it doesn't seem to be luck either, because we also dropped 15 in Nulls, and we got, I think, 8 raw Exalted Orbs, and the rest was Exalted Shards. Overall, that was a lot more than I got last league, so I think there's something happening here with the rarity, which, good for them. But overall, it just wasn't enough to really make this worthwhile. Although I will say that 5 divines are pretty decent this patch, I would say, because overall, divine is obviously a lot more expensive. I would still say for how annoying it was to sort everything, I would personally not recommend it or do it again. So in total, what is my takeaway? What is my conclusion? If you want to farm organs, you definitely want to do better than me. You want to do a 3-boss map, like for example, City Square. And that is basically just because what we talked about, being able to have a bigger selection of what you actually want. You can leave out the brains. Otherwise, like we had like twice as many brains as everything else, and we don't want a vendor, right? You could say the vendor recipe, but once again, the vendored items do not get the extra rewards from the organ donors, so the drop ones are always worth way more than the ones that you vendor for. And then I would say it's okay in terms of currency. Now, last league, if it was 5 divs per hour, I would say it's kind of mediocre. This league, I would say it's actually okay because of divine prices. However, personally, I can't recommend this at all, and I would probably just hide them or maybe sell them on TFTs to somebody else who wants them. That's definitely possible, right? Maybe somebody has some secret strat. I have no clue because I do know people actually buying them. I wouldn't recommend it simply because of sorting times. If you see all of these quad taps, these are just quad taps I've accumulated over time. Like if you don't have these, I mean, you're going to be pretty damn bad. Now, obviously, not everybody's going to farm for a week before doing all of these. I'm just saying the sorting was kind of dreadful. So if this was like an 8 or 9 divines per hour, I would maybe say maybe some people should power through if they want to, but I personally like the comfiness more. and I will not do this again in the future, that's for sure. But yeah, that's it for the video, and if you liked it, give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already subscribed, as always, thank you to my Twitch subscribers and my Patreons. I couldn't do stuff like this without you. Thank you for the support. And yeah, once again, metamorphs are just getting completely carried by the normal loot. Organs are still in the gutter. I'm glad that GGG tried with the organ donor. It's still not quite there. I hope they try in the future again. At this point, I would really decide against it. All the new nodes are really damn cool though, and the mapping itself, it's just kind of free money. Now, obviously, the longer your map is, the worse it gets, because the less metamorphs you're actually going to be able to do, and it will take a scarab slot, because other than Gilded Metamorph, I wouldn't really recommend it at all. But with that being said, since I still don't have a slogan, see you next time.